I have been sharing a lot of books on here the past couple weeks with my kids hopping on and sharing some of their favorites, my older two kids. And today I wanted to share some of our family's favorite read-alouds that are not like the most commonly recommended read-alouds. I feel like everyone already knows of and has read the Penderwicks, the Vanderbeekers. If you haven't, you totally should. But I have a stack here of books that for the most part are either not as talked about now, or I haven't heard people talking about them in a long time, or they're just not really books that I've heard people recommend for read-alouds. And I just want to give these books some spotlight. This is not a comprehensive list. We do a lot of read-alouds and reading in our house. This is just a list. There will be more lists. There is previous lists on this channel. So this is just one stack of many. I would love to hear which books are your guys' favorite read-alouds. I generally try to pick like middle grade books between that 8 and 12 year range for my kids now for read-alouds. When they were younger, we did some younger ones. But now that I've got such a range from 4 to 14, I'm kind of trying to hit the middle, and I feel like if they're good books for middle grade, then even as an adult I'm interested in them, and my 14-year-old is interested in them. So I try to pick books that I think will interest everybody in our house. So let's go in no particular order, although I think the first two especially are for the younger crowd. This one is a favorite of mine. It needs to be listened to on audio because it is narrated by the author. This is Fortunately The Milk by Neil Gaiman. Also, the book has tons of illustrations. So I am not a Neil Gaiman fan in any other form other than this book. This is the story of a father that goes out to get milk for his kids' cereal, and he just gets distracted along the way. So when he gets back, he makes up this huge story of all the problems that he ran into, but fortunately he still had the milk. And there's a dinosaur and a hot air balloon and all these different things along the way. It's a very short read. Like, this book itself is very short and it's like half illustrations. So it's silly. It captures kids' attention. This is actually just making me think that after our current read aloud, which I'll share shortly, maybe we should do this one next because my younger ones haven't read it. And it's just hilarious. A little over the top, but a lot of fun. Okay, the next one is a Roald Dahl one. I said I was trying not to put super popular ones on here, and I feel like this one's middle of the road for him. It's not one of his more popular ones necessarily, but it's not one of his ones that people haven't really heard of. It's kind of the middle. It's The Witches. This is one of the few books that I physically read aloud to my kids. I really struggle with reading out loud. I start yawning and I have a hard time like making voices and stuff. This one was so much fun. Now, I have heard some kids, this book gives them nightmares, but I feel like for my kids it was so ridiculous that they never did. So this is about witches there's a witch convention, and this boy ends up realizing what the witches are, which are these women that wear wigs because they have no hair, they have blue spit. There's all these ways to spot a witch, and they make children disappear. One child a week is 52 a year. Squish them and squiggle them and make them disappear. Yeah, so my kids love it. They thought it was hilarious. I remember when we first did it as a read aloud, my oldest, she drew a picture of a witch, and she drew labeled all the characteristics of a witch, like the blue spit and all the different things. I don't remember what it was, but this one was a lot of fun. So I'm sure it's also great on audio, but it's a fun one to read aloud. This one is our current read aloud. It's The Phantom Toll Booth by Norton Juster. This is one that I have heard recommended for a long time, but I feel like probably everyone has read it already. We are finally reading it and everyone's having a lot of fun with it. There is a lot of wordplay, which my 14-year-old is loving. She actually she didn't steal, she asked if she could have my physical copy, and I know she's highlighting and underlining certain sections and just having fun with it. She really enjoys reading, so she loves the play on words in here, and I think we are about 3/4 of the way through, and everyone's really enjoying it. The 6-year-old is always remembering to put the speaker on the table at meal times because he wants to listen, and so it's just been a great one for everyone. This next one is an absolute favorite of mine. It is really good to read in December or in the winter. It does kind of have a little bit taking place over Christmas, so that's why I say December, but it would also be really good for like January or February. That is A Place to Hang the Moon by Kate Albus. So we follow 3 siblings that are in World War II. They're sent out to the country to live with a family. But right before they do so, their grandmother dies and they're left with her inheritance. And so their lawyer says, how about you go out to the country and see if you can find yourselves a nice family. Don't tell them you have money, but, you know, scope out the people and see what you can find. And they end up in a couple different places, and some of them are not so great and some of them are. There is a lot of talk about reading, and libraries and classic books are mentioned, and a lot of talk of hot cocoa and sitting by the fire. So it's a really cozy book for winter. Yeah, this is one I really wanted to reread this winter and I haven't yet, but I would still like to. Maybe a little bit on the higher age range is Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling. So this one we follow a 13-year-old. Her name is Avon Green, and she was born without arms. She has such a great sense of humor. She tells of different ways that she tells people how she lost her arms. You know, she was bitten by a crocodile or whatever it is. And this is a duology. There's Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus and then Momentous Events in the Life of a Cactus. So right at the beginning of the book, her family moves to Arizona and they start running Stagecoach Pass, which is a rundown Western theme park. And so she's getting to know a whole new crowd at school. We've got some interesting people that work at the Stagecoach Pass, and it was so good. She ends up making friends with a boy with Tourette's. Really enjoyed it. Book 2 was pretty good too, but book 1 definitely the best. This one was a fun one. This is Book Scavenger by Jennifer Chambliss Bertman. I don't really even know how to pronounce that. So this is fun. This is very contemporary, but in this world, like in this book world, there is a man named Garrison Griswold who created Book Scavenger, which is a game where people leave clues and then they leave books at places and you're supposed to leave a clue and hide a book, and it sounds like so much fun. It's something that I would really like to be a real thing. I know at least after we had read this, there was a website where you could do this, but it's not like commonly done, so it's not really a big thing like it is in here. And I really like books with clues and different mysteries like that, and then if it's leading you to bookish things, all the better. So this is a trilogy. I have only read the first book, as is generally my theme with middle grade books especially, but I really enjoyed it. This is one that I've never heard anyone talk about. I came across it on Book Outlet, which is where I have gotten most of these books. If you've never ordered from Book Outlet before, I can leave, I think I have a referral code that will give you $5 off your first order. They have overstock books that are at a discounted price, so it's a really great way to add to your collection. And I just stumbled across this somehow, and then we have gotten all 3 books in the series. This is Case Closed is a series. Book 1 is Mystery in the Mansion. So this is a choose your own adventure. We follow Carlos, whose mom is a detective. Yes, she has a detective agency and it's failing. She gets sick, and so he decides to take this case that comes across his path, I guess. Someone called and he takes it. And it's also, we follow his best friend Eliza and her younger brother Frank, who my kids loved but just drove me up a wall because he was such a typical annoying younger brother. So it is choose your own adventure. So you start with day 1 and you get to choose where you're gonna go from there. So like the very first one, I mean the introduction is always a little bit longer because you know you need to lay the groundwork and stuff. Let's see, and then so there's 18 pages, you're at the first one, and then you either go to page 380 or 295, and then each section is like 1 to 4 or 5 pages. So it was really nice for a read aloud because we could stop at any of those points. And the kids kept wanting to read more though, because they were like, oh, what's next? And it has some puzzles in here that you have to kind of solve. We didn't write in the actual book because we wanted to be able to solve it again, or go a different way. There's a box puzzle. We have only read these each once. Oh, there's a word ladder. But these could definitely be read way more than once. Oh, I think we did solve one of them. There's definitely something written in there. Because there's so many different offshoots that you could go, you probably only read a quarter to a third of the book. So we could always go through it again and try something different. And the last book I want to share, this one, my kids laughed and cried for. It is The Lost Year by Catherine Marsh. So we follow 3 cousins on 2 continents and 1 haunting secret. Actually, we don't actually follow 3 cousins. We follow 2 of the cousins and 1 boy in modern day. So let's see if I can explain this properly. So we're in 2020 during COVID with this boy named Matthew. He loves video games. He lives with his mom and his dad is overseas. I think he's a journalist or something. And then they've got his mom's grandmother living with him as well. And then we go back to, why am I not remembering where it takes place? Yeah, Ukraine in the 1930s. And we follow 2 young girls during that time. And they are cousins. And we learn about another one of their cousins. And I can't really say much. The audiobook is really good for this as well. The Matthew character, I think my kids could relate to, being more modern. He made them laugh. And then the rest of the story broke their hearts, broke mine. Really well done. I feel like I've heard a few people talk about it like more in my booktube world, but I haven't really heard homeschoolers talking about it, and they should. It's Soviet Ukraine is not a topic that is often talked about or like comes up very often, and this is just very well done. I also want to show you the dust jacket. It actually goes around. It's got 2 different girls there. So good. Yeah, so this is just one of what could be many stacks of some of our favorite read alouds. Like I said, most of them have been audiobooks, except the few that I said I read aloud. Highly recommend these. Would love to hear your guys' favorites. If you aren't already, make sure to sign up for my Substack. It's always linked in the description. That is where I've moved my newsletter over to, and I often share different book recommendations. I recently shared, I think it was like 5 or 6 books that I want to read aloud to my kids this year. We're kind of going back and doing some of the ones we've done before so that the younger kids can have some experience with those books as well. But I'm always looking for new ones to add into the mix as well. So definitely let me know. And thanks for hanging out with me.